Chrisean Rock is embroiled in yet another terrible circumstance that may even eclipse previous difficulties. She was about to turn a new leaf, but she got caught up in a spiral that could keep her away from her regular life for a while. Chrisean's recent arrest for an outstanding warrant opened a new difficult chapter in her turbulent life. Hi there and welcome back to Rumor Spill. Her initiatives are now starting to pay off, not just for her personally, but also, unfortunately, for her young son, Chrisean Jr. The young child is caught in the crossfire and ends up as an unintentional victim of his mother's situation. Rumors have been circulating that he may have been placed under protective care amid all of this chaos. When Chrisean and her kid realize they will likely have to go through Child Protective Services, CPS, and maybe fight for custody, things get worse. For those who have been following her journey, this revelation is both confusing and sobering. Right now, Chrisean is trapped in this nightmare, and oddly, no one seems surprised that her child's father, Blueface, is the source of all of these problems. Blueface, often referred to as her boo thing and baby daddy, has been a constant in Chrisean's life and has frequently led her into problems over the years. Therefore, it should come as no surprise that he is a key player in the most recent dispute that may result in Chrisean losing custody of his son, Chrisean Jr. In the middle of private vows and public pronouncements earlier this year, Chrisean vowed to end her turbulent connection with Blueface. She affirmed that she was going to move on, that she was independent of him, and that she was not going to allow their history to hold her back. In an honest moment, she thought back, saying no today was a step, considering how difficult it is to break strong emotional bonds. How can you cut off a soul tie? She asked directly, revealing that, despite her apparent resolution, she was still struggling within. Chrisean expressed her feelings about the relationship's ongoing negative effects on her, particularly as a mother, in an emotional outburst. "It's bad for my son, and bad for me to give him a bit of me." She bemoaned, "How can I let a man who doesn't want to be a true father have such power over me?" The difficulties still exist even with her determination, as demonstrated by a recent instance in which she nearly replied to one of his messages. "What am I doing?" She finally cried out in exasperation, her resolve wavering briefly as she looked at her kid, a constant reminder of her greater obligations. As she continued, her frustration was evident. "I'm staring at my son, trying to push Blueface to grow up, to stop the immature and selfish antics." She was clearly disappointed in herself, as she struggled to understand the intricacies of their relationship. She retaliated against his attempts to re-enter her life by saying, "You will mess around and get yourself to stop bothering me. Find someone else who tolerates your nonsense because I no longer will." During her introspective moments, Chrisean resorted to her religion, asking God to strengthen her determination. "God, help me to want better, to release me from my old self," she pleaded. "I need strength, not just to maintain discipline, but to overcome the desire to take the easy path in dealing with Blueface." Nonetheless, Chrisean's personal discoveries did not lessen the controversy surrounding him. She was embroiled in controversy once more, just as it appeared that things would calm down. It was almost as though unrest was her constant companion. Fortunately, a friend named Khan stepped in during one of the main confrontations, which resulted in Blueface's arrest. The arrest was the result of a serious conflict that occurred in 2022. Blueface and his friends engaged in a risky altercation at that instance. When things got out of hand, they were showcasing a troublesome trailer. At an abandoned strip club, the scenario took a violent turn despite the initial good intentions. Blueface, replicating a scene from an action movie, pulled out a gun and fired it as hostilities reached a breaking point. The fallout was disorganized. While Blueface attempted to project the image of being armed and menacing, the truth was far different. It seemed impossible that he could have been actively engaging his pursuers, as he claimed, since he was, in fact, withdrawing from the combat. Nevertheless, by November 2022, he had been apprehended and was being prosecuted heavily. According to TMZ, he was accused of firing a gun into a structure in addition to other offenses, including felony attempted murder. Even though the allegations were serious, Blueface was able to get a $50,000 bond and be released. At a later court appearance, he submitted a guilty plea, and as part of a plea agreement, the attempted murder allegation was dropped. He did, however, acknowledge other infractions such as assault and gunfire. The court placed stringent limits on him, such as not being in the company of armed persons and limiting his appearance in specified areas. Ironically, Blueface found it difficult to follow the conditions of his probation despite the court's restrictions. Given his past, it was not surprising that he was unable to abstain from substance use and keep a spotless record, but it was nonetheless another blow in his turbulent existence. Chrisean was enmeshed in yet another web of emotional and legal conflict in the cold embrace of January. It all started when she came out in public to say that her father, whom she had previously claimed had been lost to her and was imprisoned in Baltimore, was actually still alive and well. In the midst of these revelations, Chrisean angrily declared that she was over Blueface. Paradoxically, though, she was observed fervently pleading for Blueface's release when he was imprisoned that same month, yelling "Free Blueface" with an intensity that appeared more than merely encouraging. It was almost as though it was her calling. Whispers started to surface during this chaotic period, claiming that Blueface had accused Chrisean in front of the police in order to get a lighter sentence for himself. Their already tense relationship became much more complicated as a result of these reports, which presented a desperate and betrayed image. In the meantime, Chrisean found herself embroiled in a lawsuit in downtown. The details were unclear, but the connotation was obvious. She was in danger, and it seemed like everyone had an opinion. "Please pardon me, but what precisely are you doing to her? Is she being held as a warning?" People watching the drama play out ask questions like, is this bizarre spectacle part of the reality that is Blueface's life? Because they were perplexed and worried about what was happening. Things did not get any better at home. Due to Chrisean Jr.'s mischievous behavior and overall messiness, his parents wouldn't let him go. This was made worse by Chrisean's supposed neglect and absence. She was involved in her own problems and was nowhere to be found when her brother, Beau, needed her. WAC 100, Blueface's manager, wanted to reveal more information about the issue amid all of the uproar. His admissions appeared to be intended to enrage the situation as much as to inform it, which is how Chrisean ended up being arrested. When there seemed to be no other option, she took to Instagram Live and declared fearlessly that she would not give herself in to the police. Even as the number of warrants against her increased, she proclaimed, "I have no intention of turning myself in." With hopelessness, she thought, maybe they'll give me 30 days to sort this out or something if the judge is sitting on a regular bench. After she was finally freed, Chrisean's legal problems persisted. She was charged with skipping court dates. A close friend disclosed, "She accused me of not wanting her to go to court." But you know that Blueface already knows that these hearings don't require you to be incarcerated, right? This made her already turbulent life even more complicated. She went so far as to say that she couldn't attend court dates because of practical difficulties in Oklahoma, which seemed more like a pathetic request for forgiveness than a valid justification. A close colleague bemoaned, but she just doesn't seem mentally prepared to handle the legalities, life's harsh realities, or any of this mess. They had made numerous unsuccessful attempts to assist her in navigating the maze of her personal and legal issues. Someone cryptically said on social media once more, "Hard and make a soft ass," alluding to the tough love method that some felt was required to handle her case. Rumor had it that if the authorities chose to fly her there, they would make sure she got to her hearings on time. No apologies, no delays. They did this to ensure that she, whether or not she was ready, took the fallout from her actions. In the midst of all this emotional turmoil, Chrisean Jr., was at the center of an even more terrible story. The moment the world learned that Chrisean was back in jail, worries about her capacity to raise her child multiplied. Chrisean Jr. was reportedly placed under the custody of Child Protective Services. CPS and sources indicated that the agency was taking steps to permanently revoke her parental rights. It was also said that the young patient was at last getting much-needed medical care. Concerned supporters and observers talked about Chrisean Jr.'s failure to reach age-appropriate developmental milestones on social media. Many expressed their concern and begged for action on his behalf, sparking a larger discussion concerning his well-being. The youngster appeared to be receiving the required support